All right. Hi again, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our live webinar today, where we'll be covering everything you need to know to get started with e-commerce search ads. My name is Caroline Cox. I'm the content marketing manager here at HawkSEM, and I'll be hosting today's webinar. I'll introduce you to our amazing presenter, Neelie, in just a bit. But first, a few housekeeping notes before we get started. Today's webinar is using the Zoom platform, which at this point you're probably pretty familiar with. So you can join via your computer, laptop, tablet, whatever works for you. And if you have any questions during the webinar, you can just type them into the Q&A box that should be on the lower side of your Zoom panel, and we'll be having a Q&A section at the end where we'll address any of these questions. Also, this webinar is being recorded, so we'll share a link to the recording within the next few days, so look out for that. All right, let's get started. So here's the run of show. We're doing the welcome and intro right now. I'll briefly cover who we are. We'll hop into Neelie's presentation, and then after that, like I said, we'll have a quick Q&A. So now a little about HawkSEM. We are a full-service digital marketing agency. Right here are just some of the services we offer, everything from SEO to content marketing, and of course, paid search, remarketing, and shopping feeds. And then, what makes us different? There are a lot of agencies out there. What's different about us? First is our Conversion IQ system. This is our patent pending smart way of marketing. It ensures we're always focused on revenue, not just traffic, and your strategy as a whole. We're also marketing scientists here, so we don't have a separate dedicated analytics team because everyone on our team, every account manager is a data-driven marketing scientist. We also only employ senior managers, which means we don't have any junior marketers working on your accounts. It's all senior talent. We're strategists who execute. So we don't just give you a to-do list. We actually come up with best practices for you and make them happen and implement those for you. And then of course we focus and touch. So we don't just set it and forget it. We're always iterating and testing new things on your campaigns. Lastly, we have extensive expertise in the area of e-commerce. So we work with companies like La Blanca Swimwear, Campaign Living, Blue Sky, and Zoma, among others that you can see here. So now I'll introduce Neelie Palmer. She is a lead strategist extraordinaire here at HawkSEM. She's got more than 6 years of experience specializing in PPC and SEM management. And since starting at Hawk in 2017, she has produced results across a broad spectrum of industries and platforms, including social and Amazon advertising. In her spare time, she enjoys running, yoga, and gardening, which all sound like great hobbies and stress relievers, especially right now. So before I pass it to Neelie, I'm going to do a really quick poll here just to see where everyone is as far as e-commerce search ads. So this poll asks, how much experience do you have with e-commerce search ads? And you can say no experience, a little experience, some experience. So I'll give people a few minutes or a few seconds, sorry, to answer that. Just a few more here, and then I'll share the results. Okay, I'm going to end it now. And so it looks like we have a good mix, some people with some experience, some people with a lot of experience. Both of those, or even if you have none or a little, everyone will take away some tactical things here that will help you on your campaigns. With that, I'm going to pass it over to you, Neelie.
Everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar today. This is Neelie. Really excited to talk about e-commerce search ads. Definitely one of my passionate areas of digital marketing. So really excited to get started. We've divided our webinar today into 3 main sections. First, we'll go, starting very from scratch. When you have an online store, but you're not sure how to get started with Google Ads for shopping. So first, we're going to go into how you create a product feed and start a Merchant Center account. Next, we'll talk through going into Google Ads and actually setting up shopping campaigns to run. And then after that, we got our product data in and we got shopping campaigns launched. Next, we'll talk about refining your strategy and extending your reach. So let's dive right in. All right, so just to hit you with some data first, only 17% of brands say they're ahead of the curve or leading the e-commerce space for their industry, which is very low. So hopefully after this, your brand in particular will have a little bit more confidence getting into e-commerce ads. Great. So number one, we're going to go through a product feed. So when you're doing Google Shopping, traditional search campaigns, they are powered by keywords, but shopping campaigns are powered by a product feed. So this is a quick quote from Google that kind of talks about their take on it. In your product feed file, which will be housed in Merchant Center, you'll create a feed that has all of your product information in a nice structured format that Google likes to work with. And so we're going to dive right into what that means. Great. So very first off, when you're getting into Google Shopping, the first step is creating a Google Merchant Center. So that is a free account, completely free to create. And I recommend creating that account under an email that also has access to your other Google properties like Google Ads, Google Analytics, Search Console. You really want everything to be under that one login to make things consistent and easy to link together. So Google Merchant Center, like I said, free to get started there. You just create an account. And then next, we're going to try to get our products all in Google Merchant Center. So a few things to consider when you're picking how to get your product data housed there is your e-commerce platform. So if you have one of the more popular platforms like Shopify, BigCommerce, Magento, there's some easy ways to get started, which we'll talk about in a second. You'll definitely want to think about the number of products and the amount of data that you'll need to be putting into Merchant Center. So, you might have only a handful of products, but with variations, you may have hundreds of SKUs. You may have thousands of products, and really dealing with that is definitely different than just a few hundred. A few required product fields to keep in mind is Google wants to know your product ID, which may be your SKU or your MPN or manufacturing parts number. They'll need a title of your product, a description. Those are two places that you can really optimize to help Google Shopping, which we'll get into more. You'll need a link to the product page, image link, a price, condition, new, used, availability, and a brand. And then depending on what types of products, there may be other required fields. If you're doing apparel, you definitely have to have an age group, a gender, color, size, material, pattern. So lots of info that Google wants just to get you started out of the gate. Great. So next, going on about your product data input. So if you do have a lot of products and a really a popular e-commerce platform like we talked about with Shopify or BigCommerce, Shopify has a really easy way to integrate, but there's lots of great apps for BigCommerce, Magento, WooCommerce out there. So usually you can buy a one-time payment of an app or an extension to add to your site that will help you map that feed and submit it to Merchant Center on a regular basis to keep that product data fresh. I've also had experience using other mapping sites like GoDataFeed. So those are all options, especially if you have a lot of products. If you have a smaller number of products, you have other options like uploading a text file or putting a Google Sheet together that will automatically feed your product data. So there's definitely some more options outside of getting an app or an extension. And brand new to Google Merchant Center, and actually if you have set up a feed before, you'll think this is awesome. You can manually add products. Of course, each product does need a lot of data, so it might not make sense to add products one by one if you have quite a few. But if you're just getting started and you have a handful that you want to test first before you go into this, that is also an option. So if you go into Merchant Center, you'll see this nice pop-up we have here, pictured on the slide. And like I said, it's brand new, so that's exciting. Another really key thing with Merchant Center is keeping your product data fresh. So Google will allow your products to remain active for 30 days. After 30 days, it wants new product info. It will actually expire those products and they won't be eligible to show. So you'll either have to reprocess your feed or send your data continuously on a regular basis. So, I usually, depending on your products and how much they change, I think daily is really great. It might be okay to do weekly or bi-weekly, but you have to get some fresh data in there at least every 30 days or reprocess your feed file to keep running. Great. So we're going to go into a little bit more specifics on Merchant Center. So my second tip is let Google do the work for you. So one of the main things you're going to have to do in Merchant Center is verify your store URL. So, in Google Merchant Center, you'll go there and you'll be able to verify your store URL if you're linked to your Google Analytics or Search Console account. That's another reason I suggested and recommended to make sure you have all your Google products under one login to make it really easy. So you'll verify your store URL. There are a few things that Google allows you to set at your account level. These can also be available in your feed. But if all of your products fall under the same thing, you can configure shipping at the account level. So it's under the settings icon. It used to be a gear, it's now a wrench. So under tools, you can set under shipping and returns, you can select carrier rates for popular carriers like FedEx or UPS, USPS, and Google will actually do that work for you and calculate those carrier rates to show with your shopping ads. Google's main goal is to make sure that they're showing accurate information, especially about shipping. So they're picky and want you to have shipping verified on all of your products. So, an account level setting is a good way to cover everything. So carrier rates are available there, or you can create a shipping table. If you do free shipping over orders of $200, you can set that up. Or maybe it's $5 shipping for orders $1 through $50, and you're doing shipping that way. You can create a table right within Merchant Center to make sure that applies to your products. Something else you can also create at the account level, or you can have this in feed, would be your tax options. So a few different things you can choose to not charge tax for any state. I'm not telling you to do that because that's probably not right. But you can also set, if you only charge taxes in certain states that you ship to, you can actually set that up per state. So maybe in Texas, you actually charge 8.2% or something tax rate. I don't know, it's just an example, but you can actually set that up so you can have each state have their own tax level rates. And then the states that you don't charge tax to, you don't have to do anything with those. So you have those options at the account level. And really it's a great use to get everything approved and covered, because your products will not be approved. It will remain pending or disapproved unless you have shipping and tax information either in feed or account level. Great, so let's move on. Also, there's a lot of things in your Merchant Center settings that I often see gets missed. One of those things is enabling automatic updates. So Google would actually crawl your page and find your most updated price and availability. If you are opted into automatic improvements, it will automatically show those new values, especially if you go out of stock. You won't be running Google ads to a page where your products aren't available right now. So you can pick to either automatically update only price or only availability, or both. Or you can turn it off altogether and if you know that your feed is being refreshed daily and you really want the feed to be the most accurate source of information. And if you have a site that is structured differently where the Google crawl doesn't understand your pricing quite right, I would definitely turn off the automatic updates for price. So that's just an example. So once you have everything in Merchant Center, you'll connect to your Google Ads account. Again, if you're under the same email, really easy to do. Um, and of course, we have to touch on the latest news. Google, just in the past couple of weeks, maybe even just last week, announced that they will start running free listings on Google Shopping. I've had some clients be a little bit confused about this, so I can keep running shopping and quit paying? Not exactly. So in this bottom screenshot, you'll see that there is a shopping section of Google. The free listings will be available only on this shopping tab. And if you are familiar with the shopping tab, it's a lot like if you're shopping on Amazon, where you can filter prices, you can search, and you can, it's more e-commerce based. So, more important than ever to get your Merchant Center created and your products in there and prices, because you'll actually start getting an organic lift from being able to be on this shopping tab for the free listings. So even if right now your business might be struggling and you're not ready to give budget to new advertising or Google campaigns, I still recommend going into Merchant Center and setting up a feed, because you will be eligible for those free listings if you do so. And you can only be there if you're in Merchant Center. So definitely get started there. And then when you're ready, you can start Google Shopping later. Cool. So let's see. So this is just a quick stat about mobile. Mobile commerce, 284 billion, or 45% of the total e-commerce market. So mobile is increasingly important. People's phone, and even now as people stay home, they're on their phones a lot, they're shopping online. So definitely something you need to consider when you're looking at your e-commerce strategy. Great, so we're on to part 2. We already have our Merchant Center set up. We talked about all of the product info Google wants and structuring that in a feed, and how to get that started. Next, we're going to move on to Google Ads and talk about Google Shopping campaigns within Google Ads. So this is a quick quote from Google, that the campaigns can help promote your products by giving detailed information about what you're selling. And like I said, your product feed really powers these campaigns. So the quality of your data there is very important to a successful shopping campaign performance. So setting up your campaign. So it's pretty easy to get started once you have Merchant Center linked. You'll select that big blue button on the campaign tab and follow the links that you want your goal to be sales, and you'll pick shopping. Right then and there, Google asks, do you want it to be a smart shopping campaign? I really recommend starting with a standard shopping campaign. Smart shopping is usually fueled better by having a solid foundation of account data. So if you're just getting started, I would recommend doing a manual campaign first, and then maybe experimenting with smart shopping down the road. So when you are setting up your campaign, my number one rule here, setting you up for success from the very beginning, is to get granular. This screenshot here is just showing you how you can subdivide everything in all product groups. So you can actually split all of your products into, it's kind of confusing because it's a little different than regular search campaigns. You can split a campaign into ad groups that can then be split further into product groups. If you have just a couple of hundred product groups or a manageable number, I would even suggest breaking everything out by single product groups. So you would actually subdivide everything by the item ID, like it's shown here in this screenshot. There's other ways to split everything up. If your core is sporting goods, but you also sell apparel, it's only 20% of your business. You may put all of your apparel into a separate campaign to make sure you're giving most of your budget to your core products. Other ways to divide it up, you could divide devices by putting a negative 100% bid adjustment to separate desktop and mobile. So for your desktop campaign, you divide or you would put in a negative 100% bid adjustment on mobile to show only on desktop. And same for mobile, you would put that negative bid adjustment on desktop. So you could divide by devices. Another one of my favorite strategies is to really separate out searches based on how specific they're getting, because the more specific a search, probably the higher intent. So how to do this is to set up campaign priorities and then use negative keywords to separate those searches. Google Shopping is unique and it has a priority system you can set of low, medium, or high priority. If you have several shopping campaigns, that dictates which ones would serve an ad first. And then you can use negative keywords to kind of separate by intent. So for example, to explain this better, if I had a user searching for running shoes, they're pretty upper funnel. They're still in their research phase and they're looking pretty generally. They're just looking for running shoes. I would definitely bid differently on that type of search than say you're Nike and they actually searched Nike running shoes. So that is already showing a little bit more intent than the just running shoes because they have a brand in mind. They already know they want Nike. So if I was Nike, I would definitely want to bid more on someone looking for Nike running shoes versus just running shoes. And then say they get even more specific and they want Nike Flyknit women's running shoes. So they are putting a brand and a specific product in their search. So you can have, that's probably a sign of very high purchase intent. They already know what brand they want, they know what kind they want, and they're closer to a sale. They're much closer to purchasing, we think, at least, than someone that's looking for just running shoes. So that's just an example of thinking about the different types of intent that searches have. So definitely when you're setting this up, get granular. Another great thing to do within your shopping campaigns once you've started is try to experiment with different campaign and ad types. So traditionally, everything showed a single product ad. So that's what's highlighted here in this screenshot. It will show, just one product and all of the details there. I suggest also experimenting with showcase shopping ads that would show a multi-product ad. If you have any experience in Amazon, this is very similar to a sponsored brand type ad, where if someone is searching your brand, but maybe not specifically, you can put your best sellers there or show, a range of products so that you can really show your variety or different types of products that you sell. So showcase shopping is pretty similar to that, but definitely, experiment. That's kind of the core of digital marketing, is trying new things and experimenting and based on your data, making decisions. Also in beta, I wanted to point out, because this is definitely applicable to e-commerce, is automatic image extensions. If your account is eligible for this, you will see this in under ads. There's an extension setting within Google Ads, and this will be this bottom screenshot right here. Oops, sorry, I covered it up. This will show at the very top of that extensions if your account is in the beta, so you can turn these on. The only caveat here is Google is automatically picking these images to show with text ads. So these aren't actually going to show with shopping, but they would with search. But Google betas are always here, sometimes to say, sometimes to stay, and sometimes they go away. So hopefully eventually we'll be able to pick these products, but I think that especially with e-commerce, an image is really important. Great, so I'm going to take a break here and pass it to Caroline to do a quick poll.
Yep, thanks, Neelie. Before we move on, I'm going to go ahead and launch poll number 2 that is discussing our next tip, and that is, has your business used remarketing in the past? So I'm going to give this a few seconds for people to chime in, and then we'll break down dynamic remarketing for e-commerce. So going to give this a few minutes or a few seconds, sorry. All right. So it looks like another good mix. And now back to you.
Great. So if you are running Google Ads, you're already paying for people to get to your website. And as we all know, as consumers ourselves, not everyone buys the first time. I like to think about everything a little bit, but dynamic remarketing is a great way to nurture your funnel. So dynamic remarketing at its core is showing users specific products that they have viewed on your website. So they look at a specific pair of, say, running shoes. You show them that exact pair of running shoes as they browse other sites on the web. So setting up dynamic remarketing, there is usually a little bit of code to add to the website to make this work. But again, it is powered by your Merchant Center feed. So you have to make sure that you have Merchant Center set up, and that's really working too if you want it to be successful for Google Shopping. So just a few ideas on where to remarket and who to remarket to. A lot of people put things in their cart. You can always remarket those same products to the cart abandoners. And if you have the e-commerce settings set up correctly in Google Analytics, you should already have some audiences available for those cart abandoners. But not every website's the same, so it might take a little while to get to that. Also, another idea is if you have, a new product push, people that have bought from you in the past, showing them something new. That's not exactly dynamic remarketing, but it would be a remarketing strategy. Or you could remarket similar products to things people have already bought. So say someone buys a yoga mat from you, you can market them then, yoga straps, blocks, matching yoga pants, anything, that would kind of be a good add-on. Great, so we're on to part 3, refining our strategy and extending our reach. So we've already talked about setting up your Merchant Center and getting all of your product data in there. And then we talked about setting up your Google Shopping ads. So now let's build on this success and let's extend our reach to get more traffic and, like I said, build on the success. So this is another quote from Google. While you can define product groups within your campaign, your ad performance is tightly linked to the data you provide in Merchant Center. So make sure it's accurate and up to date. So on to tip 7, optimizing your campaigns. So just as someone who does this a lot, the 2 KPIs I think that are probably most important when you are optimizing. If you're on a manual bidding strategy, I would definitely pay attention to your conversion volume and the stat conversion value over cost, because that will calculate a rough idea of your return on ad spend. And kind of your ROI, not putting your margin in there, but you'll know more about what you're getting from your ad spend. So a good, just a quick example, if you spend $100 in ad spend and that creates $700 of purchases, it would show you 7.0 in your conversion value over cost column. And if you're plugging that into an ROAS strategy, that would be 700%. So if you have a definite goal or an account average after you have accrued some data, anything under your goal or under your average, you may decrease bids on. Things that are constantly spending that aren't really giving a lot of value, you may even exclude from your campaign. Where you're seeing the most return and there's opportunity to grow your impression share, you can increase bids on those best, those campaigns, or those products that are producing the most conversion value when comparing that to the ad spend. After you have a good foundation of data, I have had a lot of success using the target ROAS automated bidding strategy. So you might also call it target ROAS. So I would say that's a good experiment to try after you do have a good foundation, and not every account is the same. Sometimes I see that work really well to control your bids and get more return out of your campaign. Sometimes manually adjusting your bids works better. So definitely experiment. With shopping, you can't run a traditional experiment within Google Ads, but you can switch over for a time period and compare. Just definitely let it generate. And those automated bidding strategies are powered by data. So the longer you run it, the better it should get. That's not always the case. Also with smart shopping, that's something you can try, but do pay attention that you're smart shopping. You can't be running the same products in your traditional shopping campaigns and smart shopping. If you do that, the smart shopping will take precedence. So I really, if you're going to try smart shopping in a smart way, I would actually pick a mix of high performers and low performers, and exclude those from your regular shopping campaign and let them run in smart shopping for a time, or just, a subset of your products. But definitely don't pick all of your low performers from your regular shopping, put them in smart shopping, and then be surprised that they still perform, they don't perform well. So you really want to mix to give it an equal shot. Another great way to optimize your campaigns, aside from bidding strategies and adjusting your bids, actually is part of your product feed. You can create custom labels within your feed to separate different products. So those custom labels will be available when you go into Google Ads, into your product groups. If you try to subdivide further, custom labels will be available there. So, and really as a retailer, you likely know your products best. So you can create custom labels based on margin or what's most profitable. You can have best sellers and divide up your campaigns, ad groups, and product groups based on those labels. Great. So just, we already had this webinar planned, but it is very timely right now. E-commerce sites have doubled their ad spend from 4.8 million the week of February 17th to 9.6 million the week of March 9th as people started to social distance. And definitely I've had several clients come to me and say, we're not doing well, we need to cut their budget. And then they look at the numbers on their actual campaigns and they're getting great sales and they're actually seeing a lift. So they want to keep their campaigns going and even put more budget into them, especially stores that, you have a strong brick and mortar presence of someone that visits your store often, and now you're having to move online. I'm seeing customers that are loyal to going to your store will visit your online store. So definitely try to be there for them, give them a new option since they can't come see you. Great. So talking more kind of details on strategy, tip 8 is about conducting a strategic product push. And really, before we talk about that, I think we need to talk about budget. You really need to, especially in e-commerce, plan your budget for the year or for the long term at least. If you have a seasonal product, like you sell camping equipment, that would be more, your hot season or hot season, but your good season is spring and summer where you can go camping. So know your slow periods, know your warm periods, and adjust your budgets accordingly per month. Have lots of clients come to me and they want to spend, $5,000 a month every month. And then maybe at the end of the month, they want to do a promotion. Well, we've already spent half of our budget before the promotion, and then we run out of budget and their promotion's going, and we're only serving 30% of the impression share for our ads. So definitely plan for promotions and make sure those are fully funded, even giving extra budget to promotions that are a big deal. If you're running this big promotion, you want as much traffic to the site So if you have a semi-annual sale, a back-to-school sale, you're planning for the holidays, definitely plan your budget for those too. There is a way to show sales and promotions in your feed. So used to, you'd do a supplemental feed to do this, but Google recently launched an actual promotion feed that you can find in Google Merchant Center. So this, you would just set up some specific promotion requirements, and then Google reviews those and approves or denies. But this is a way for your promotion to actually show within your Google shopping ads, and it will kind of show, you know, price drop, and get people interested without even clicking through to your site. So that's a good, you know, try the promotion feed, or make use of supplemental feeds to do that. Definitely plan for your new product launches. I think that remarketing plays into those really well, but you know, if you have a new product, make sure you get that data into Merchant Center and get that approved. And then if you're really wanting to drive sales there, you can even separate out that product, or you know, a new line of products from the rest of your campaigns to give them adequate budget and, you know, give it a chance to really succeed. So one of the very last things we'll touch on is carrying the success to Microsoft Advertising, which you might know as Bing Ads. Same thing. They rebranded though, because Microsoft Advertising does include the Bing platform, Yahoo, MSN, AOL, and a few other sites. So since it's not only Bing, I think they rebranded, but we're talking about the same thing. If you have good success in Google and you're topping your impression share, you can easily carry your shopping campaigns over to Bing. So within Bing, if you already have an ads account, it's easy to get a Merchant Center account set up right from the ads platform. So that will be under tools. And then from you can get your Microsoft Merchant Center account kicked off. Don't worry, you don't have to structure your data any different way than Google. You don't even have to structure it all. You can process your product data straight from the Google Merchant Center by linking the two. Microsoft will process this data just like Google. It might take some time, a day or two, or you know, depending on the number of products, it will review that product data, and then you can create a shopping campaign within Microsoft, or import a shopping campaign from Google that's already working well, since you have everything split out nicely, hopefully. So you can import that. And something I think new to Microsoft Advertising is you can import on a recurring basis. So you know, usually you import a campaign, it's in Microsoft, and then you used to had to go to Google, you know, you optimize there, then you go to Bing and you optimize. If you set up a recurring sync, you can optimize in one place and make sure that it's carried over easily. Or you might want to optimize based on the different platform behavior, so that might not be an advantage. It is an option though. So a lot of times people are wary of the Bing ads platform, or it's gotten a bad rep, but I think that it's great, especially if you're looking to branch out. Microsoft usually has cheaper cost per clicks, less competition there. So especially if you're in a really saturated market, Bing might perform better than Google, and I definitely think it's worth a try. You already did all the work setting up your Merchant Center, why not? Great, so we're just gonna recap. That's the end of our tips and kind of the end, but just to recap. So we went through tip number 1, choosing the product data input method. Remember, the key things there are number of products and your platform, and then optimizing your Merchant Center settings. That's actually 3, but within that, let Google do the work for you for your shipping, your taxes, verifying your URL. All of those can work within your Google product or at the account level. Opt into automatic updates to make things easier for you, or opt out, but make sure that you pay attention to that. Once we have everything set in Merchant Center, we'll link up to Google Ads and set up our Google Shopping campaign, get granular there. Like I said, you know, lots of clients come to me and they have one shopping campaign with one ad group and one product group that's all their products. So definitely get granular, split those out, see what's working. Don't just lump everything together for a performance metric. Experiment with different campaign types, bidding strategies, ad types. Keep optimizing, but extend your reach too. So consider dynamic remarketing. You're already paying for them to get to your site. Nurture them a little bit and get them to that purchase and get you some, conversion value to build off of. Optimize your campaign, adjust your bids, try automated bidding strategies. Really pay attention to how much volume each product is bringing in, but also the value compared to your ad cost. Tip 8, conduct a strategic product push. Big thing here, plan your budget for those. If you know you have you have new products or new lines coming out, make sure you have adequate budget to fuel those. Same with promotions or seasonality. And finally, you're all set up in Google, and build on that success by carrying it to Microsoft advertising. Really easy once you're started in Google to carry that over. So definitely recommend that. Great.
Awesome. Thanks, Neelie. That is a great wrap up of the presentation. So now I'm going to launch one last poll. We covered a lot here, and I know that not everyone has the same resources. So this is just whether or not you would like a free PPC or paid search analysis from HawkSEM, where we can go over performance projections, kind of review things. So I'm going to let that run in the background here. And we are going to launch into the Q&A. And if you have any other questions, you can still type them into the Q&A box down there. So our first question says, Neelie, for businesses who are just starting out with these search ads because of the pandemic and affecting in-store sales, what is the number one takeaway or thing that they should be sure to do after seeing today's presentation?
So definitely pay attention to your product data is my number one recommendation, because that product data really fuels not only your Google shopping campaigns, but with the new Google announcement, your organic results in that shopping tab. So make sure that you're really optimizing your product titles and descriptions with keywords that make sense and would directly point to that. So be specific in those descriptions and really optimize them. If you're just setting up your site, it's a great time to do it then. And if not, then you can always go back in and edit those within your feed or on your site to set you up for success.
Perfect. That's great advice. And then someone else asked, what advice do you have for e-commerce brands to increase their return on ad spend when it comes to Google shopping campaigns?
So we went over a few optimization techniques like adjusting bids based on KPIs and getting granular. But outside of that, there are some quick wins that I would pay attention to. You might not know it, but your Google shopping ads are also eligible to show on search partners, Google Display Network, and YouTube. So if you segment by network when you're looking at your Google shopping campaigns, you can see the performance of those. Sometimes certain types of products don't work as well on YouTube Display or Partners, and within your settings, you can easily opt out of those and cut down on wasted spend. So that's one of my tips. Sometimes those actually perform well, and you might want to keep them in, and you might be surprised by the different types of performance you're getting there. So that's definitely a big thing. And then, this shopping campaigns are not fueled by keywords, but in the keywords section within your shopping campaign are search terms. If you go back and look over months of data, if you have a lot, it's even better. You might see that you're spending a lot of money on really general searches. So like if you're, doing some sort of fancy running shoe, you might be spending a bulk of your spend on running shoes by itself. You could make that an exact negative to make sure that all of that ad spend is not being wasted on really general searches. So those are kind of my two quick tips, low hanging fruit, quick fixes that might help you get a little bit more return out of shopping campaigns.
Awesome. Yeah, that is great intel. Perfect. Well, if no one else has any more questions, that will wrap it up here. So thanks for joining us today, everyone. And if you have questions later, you can always reach out to us at info@hawksem.com. And again, we should be sending out the recording within about 48 hours or so. So keep an eye on your inbox for that as well. Hopefully you got a lot out of this and you have some tangible takeaways to bring back to your team. And remember, you can request a free, no obligation PPC analysis from the Hawk team after this is over by just heading to hawksem.com/ecom-ppc-audit. And that's it, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.